categories of people that can do that. You've got lawyers, you've got journalists.
Tonight, independent investigations into police misconduct and who should be doing the oversight.
That the trees are falling over, and so on the ground.
And what's at stake for Dene communities experiencing climate change in the Northwest Territories. Good evening, welcome to APTN National News. I'm Darrell Stranger. It's been over a month since the killings of Chantel Moore and Rodney Levi. Investigations by Quebec's independent investigators are underway, but what kind of justice can victims expect from police violence? As Jamie Pashagumskum reports, some say they know the answer to that question.
Not having much hope with some action, because, you know, we've been asking for this for quite some time.
Moses Martin is the chief of the LL-Col First Nation in BC and was Chantel Moore's great-uncle. He says he's skeptical because of a lack of transparency.
I'd love to get some answers as to what's going on, because, you know, we hear nothing. Not a peep out of any action, if there is action going on, investigations going on.
Indigenous lawyer Pam Palmater says independent investigators are usually white, male, ex-police officers.
Well, the First Nation families in New Brunswick can't really expect any kind of justice under the current system as it's structured.
Palmater suggests not using ex-police officers on oversight committees.
If you're talking about someone who can do a thorough investigation, an examination, a review of the facts, a review of policies, there's lots of categories of people that can do that. You've got lawyers, you've got journalists, you've got social workers, you've got people skilled in investigations in general, you've got community leaders who've long worked in these areas.
Independent investigators have stated that ex-police officers are used due to their experience in policing. Chief Martin says if they have to be police officers, why not use retired Indigenous officers?
Those are the people that I'm talking about. They know the system and they know the work that they do and get involved with. So it would make sense to have them involved as part of the investigation.
Martin sent a request to Public Safety Minister Bill Blair in June asking for an Indigenous-led investigation, but never got a response. In an email to APTN, Bill Blair's office said that neither of the cases being investigated is federal jurisdiction. APTN reached out to the Quebec investigators involved in both Chantel Moore and Rodney Levi's cases. The Bureau Enquête Indépendante wouldn't say how many people of color are involved in the investigations, but did say half of their investigators are ex-police. Meanwhile, a coroner's inquest has been called for in the case of Rodney Levi. Jamie Pashagumskum, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Alberta health officials say the curve is no longer flat. Hundreds of new cases and more deaths related to COVID-19 have been reported in the province in recent weeks. Tamara Pimentel reports.
Over 300 new cases and 8 deaths over one weekend. Just as things were starting to get back to normal, Alberta is now struggling with a spike in active COVID-19 cases. And Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dina Hinshaw, is pleading with Albertans to follow health orders.
As we see in the case numbers, the curve is no longer flat in Alberta. We all need to assess our own lives for where we are at risk of spreading or contracting the virus.
In just 4 days, active cases increased to over 1,400 in the province. And while there haven't been any reports of outbreaks in Indigenous communities, cases in Alberta's larger centres continue to climb, with over 500 in Calgary and 200 in Edmonton.
This is obviously a heartbreaking number to report. We cannot forget that this virus can have severe and even fatal impacts on our health.
Dr. Hinshaw says it is still necessary to wear masks and maintain physical distancing. Masks will be mandatory in all public spaces in Calgary starting August 1st.
I know many are tired of hearing me say that COVID-19 is not over. Sometimes I'm tired of saying it. The truth is, though, that COVID-19 is still here.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Calgary.
An Eagle staff belonging to the Canadian Armed Forces and Department of National Defence made its way to Manitoba. A ceremony was held this morning to honour and respect the Indigenous community and the Eagle staff. Michelle Karlenzig has more.
It takes two people to keep and carry an Eagle staff. The responsibility comes with strong emotion and passion.
So it's a great honor today to be here with the Eagle staff. This Eagle staff is known as the D&D Canadian or Department of National Defence Canadian Armed Forces Eagle staff, and it represents all members of the department and those in uniform. All of those who have gone before us, and all those who serve.
Lieutenant Colonel George McLeod spoke of the symbolic nature the Eagle staff holds for him, the armed forces, and the Indigenous community. Manitoba Conservation supplied the feathers through their rehabilitation program. A powerful and memorable moment, says Blair Barda.
To see the tears in people's eyes when they receive an eagle is pretty amazing, and could bring tears to my eyes pretty quick too. And seeing how important something like the Eagle staff is for the military, it's an honorable position to be in.
The Eagle staff traveled extensively across Canada and throughout the world, including all major battlefields in Europe. Master Corporal Brent Thompson spent 5 years traveling and caring for the staff.
It's a huge honor for myself to be selected and to be given that honor to be able to carry the Canadian Armed Forces Eagle staff, representing not only all soldiers but Indigenous soldiers that have not come back and have not returned, and also current serving members. It's a representation of who we are.
The symbolic staff, made up of eagle feathers, narwhal tusk, ash bow, and moose antler, has carriers all over the country.
We got a big team that's out there. Everyone's got their role to play, and it's been amazing to see us resurrect this, because before it had kind of been locked in its journey in Atlantic Canada and it hadn't been able to really get out.
Lieutenant Colonel McLeod hopes to see those carriers bring the staff to powwows and visit more First Nation communities in Canada. Michelle Karlenzig, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The Royal Canadian Mint has unveiled a new $2 coin honoring legendary Haida artist Bill Reid. The coin depicts the image of a grizzly bear, a favorite character of Reid's paintings, carvings, and jewelry. It marks the 100th anniversary of Reid's birth and celebrates the artist's groundbreaking contribution to contemporary Indigenous art. Reid played a pivotal role in raising awareness of Haida art and the traditions and culture it represents. The commemorative coin was limited to 3 million coins. 2 million of them will feature the Haida grizzly bear design. Tomorrow we will have more details about this coin when we speak with Alison Crawford from the Royal Canadian Mint. It's time for a short break, but coming up, we'll take a look at the effects climate change has had in the community of Jean Mary River in the Northwest Territories. Beginning on the East Coast, 30 degrees in Charlottetown and 30 degrees in Fredericton. 16 in Nain and 20 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. 22 in Val-d'Or and 27 in Montreal. 25 degrees in Peterborough and 22 in Sault Ste. Marie. 21 in Timmins and 24 in a mix of sun and cloud in Thunder Bay. 26 in sun in Thompson and 26 in sun in Norway House. 28 in Winnipeg and 28 in Brandon. 31 in a mix of sun and cloud in Regina and 31 in sun in North Battleford. 26 in Stony Rapids and 30 in La Ronge. Welcome back. High water in British Columbia's Fraser River is slowing migrating salmon. Last year, a massive landslide tumbled 85,000 cubic meters of rock into an area of the river, creating a waterfall and trapping the fish below. First Nations along the river experienced food insecurity because of the slide. Despite having different passage systems in place, only around 20 salmon have traveled past the slide site because swimming through high waters uses up their energy reserves. We want to hear what you think this story and any story you see on our newscast. Here's how to continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. Find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptn news. Also, you can follow APTN News on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more Indigenous news. A lot is at stake for Dene communities across the Northwest Territories experiencing climate change, but the visible reminders of changes on the land are not enough to understand the social and cultural impacts. Charlotte Moore sits down with a longtime researcher on her approach to action.
If you want to learn about climate change in Jean Marie River, Margaret Ireland is a go-to. That's because she's spent nearly 2 decades asking the right questions in the right way.
And there's very few elders left, and I was interested in documenting the stories that they have. And it was very difficult to convince them to document the stories, because to their way of thinking it is orally given to the next generations.
When discussions of a Mackenzie gas pipeline began to take shape in the early 2000s, Ireland made sure the voices of Sese Kedele, Jean Marie River, were heard.
It's very important to them that it is community-led. We would have the documents in the end of the study. They told me to go out and find a scientist that's willing to work with us and willing to listen to them.
She turned to longtime land users like her brother, Billy Norwegian.
That the trees are falling over, and so on the ground, all these trees were. Sometimes it makes it very difficult to go, and both Billy and Douglas have trap lines. So every year, before they start using their trap lines, they have to spend a day or so cutting the fallen trees off their.
Conversations based on observations to be considered alongside Western science, like how the warmer river temperatures led her brother to pull his net full of fish covered in swords, and how little caribou there is as the land dries up.
In the past, the ground freezes really, really hard before it snows. In the springtime, when it melts, there's water on the ground. But now the ground is soft and it snows. So in the springtime, the melted snow just seems to be absorbed by the earth. As a result of that, there's no groundwater on top of the water on top of the earth.
By interviewing elders, Western researchers and the Jean Marie River First Nation have been able to adapt their own practices to keep community members safe.
The changes in the weather, to be out on the land on your own, is becoming a very big safety issue. And so we needed to know where everybody is out on the land and what time to expect them back.
With the greater academic and government focus on climate change, Ireland says she has no plans to slow down.
Our young people's first language is English, not Dene. It was important for me for them to understand the history of their people.
Charlotte Moore Jacobs, APTN National News, Jean Marie River.
We have to take one more short break, but stick around. We'll tell you what Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, Itsy Bitsy Spider, and You Are My Sunshine now have in common. Moving over to the west coast now, 26 in Fort Chipewyan and 27 in Peace River. 28 in sun in Calgary and 36 in sun in Medicine Hat. 25 in sun in Vancouver and 27 in Campbell River. 26 in sun in Fort Nelson and 26 in Smithers. 22 in Mayo and 23 in Dawson. 23 in sun in Yellowknife and 26 in Fort Simpson. 13 in Colville Lake and 19 in Fort McPherson. 17 degrees in Chesterfield and 21 in Baker Lake. 18 in Cape Dorset and 12 degrees in Arctic Bay. Welcome back. The support is growing for the Haudenosaunee's field lacrosse team's fight to compete at the 2022 World Games. They weren't invited despite being ranked 3rd in the world. Now, as Elena McDougall reports, the Iroquois Nationals team is speaking out.
This is good for the game of lacrosse, and it's good for Birmingham or wherever the games are being held.
As a petition calling for the inclusion of the Iroquois Nationals at the 2022 World Games approaches 40,000 signatures online, the team is speaking out.
And I think one of the positives here, if there can be light, like it was supposed to be held in 2021, which would have been extremely difficult. And since it got pushed back a year, it gave us a little more time to have this conversation.
In 2018, the Iroquois Nationals men's field lacrosse team won a bronze medal at the World Lacrosse Championships. There, 8 teams qualified for invitation for the 2022 World Games in Birmingham, Alabama, but the Iroquois were not invited. Teams, players, and sports organizations in the U.S. and Canada, and even as far away as Thailand, have expressed support for the team. They acknowledge the Haudenosaunee origin of the sport, which is also known as the Creator's Game. In a statement, the Canadian Lacrosse Association said the petition represents one of many options to have the Haudenosaunee included.
So there's no question that the team is talented enough. It has to come down to whether it's the Olympics, World Games, Pan Am Games, what do they recognize as a national status?
A statement from the Birmingham Organizing Committee clarified that eligibility for the Games is determined by the International World Games Association, or IWGA, which relies on rules set by the International Olympic Committee. According to the Olympic Charter, the expression country means an independent state recognized by the international community. Lyons said possibilities for discussion are healthy and the support reflects the interconnectedness and friendships made within the sport.
We're not looking to be confrontational. We know that's our mandate is peace, friendship, healing. We just want to be free and be self-determined.
The Iroquois Nationals travel with Haudenosaunee passports, and the British Crown acknowledged their nationhood by the Royal Proclamation of 1763 and the 1764 Treaty of Niagara, 100 years before Canada became a country on July 1st, 1867. The Haudenosaunee are a member nation of World Lacrosse. APTN has reached out to the IWGA but has received no response. Elena McDougall, APTN National News, Hamilton.
NHL players and staff have arrived in Toronto and Edmonton to restart the pandemic-halted 2019-2020 season. The Montreal Canadiens held a press conference yesterday discussing what it's like for players to be living in this new normal. As left-winger Thomas Tatar says, living in a bubble with his team could be a lot worse.
I was a little skeptical about it as well, just because we couldn't really choose this hub cities until the last minute. But to be honest, so far it's been great. It's kind of nice to hang out with boys again. And in Montreal before they started the phase 4, we kind of had to go home after the practice. And here we all still together. We can hang out together more. They actually set up a lot of lounges for us here where we have all different kind of games. So to be honest, it's kind of nice.
The Montreal Canadiens will face off against the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight in an exhibition game before the Stanley Cup qualifiers begin Saturday, August 1st. What do Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, the Itsy Bitsy Spider, and You Are My Sunshine have in common? Well, for the first time, they've been translated into the Mohawk language and published as baby books for children in Ganawage and beyond. Lindsay Richardson reports.
An old tune sung in an even older language. It's the Itsy Bitsy Spider, sung in the Mohawk language of Gunyageha, one book in a series of 3 now available to children in Kahnawake, thanks to a local publishing house.
This is the result of 2 years of hard work, and I can't tell you how proud we are.
Also available, Odisto Odisto, or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and Agerakwa, You Are My Sunshine, all illustrated by local artists. Using a makeshift drive-through system to respect COVID-19 guidelines, the books were handed out for free to parents and their babies.
It's really nice. A lot of them are in the cars, and seeing their faces light up when we hand it to them, and knowing that it's something that they can manipulate and handle themselves.
Yorun Yahawi Macomer is a coordinator at the Kahnawake Language Nest, an immersion space where mothers and children converse only in Gunyageha. Mohawk nursery rhymes used to be sung aloud and were never committed to writing until now.
You have to get the tune in mind, and our words are so much longer than the English, so we have to make the words fit into a tune that is sung with English words. So that's a process in itself.
A bright shiny star in heaven.
Katari Deer didn't have books like these as a young girl.
When we were going to school, we weren't allowed to talk our language. If we spoke it, you got scolded.
As an adult, she'd go on to teach it.
It welcomes us. Maybe the sky and the stars.
One of the books is now dedicated to her. Deer says her parents sustained the language at home despite pressure in school.
The first thing my mom said to us, I don't care what kind of language you learn today. In this house we speak Mohawk. Because if I don't understand what you're saying, you ain't getting what you want.
With fewer than 3,500 speakers left, the Mohawk language is considered endangered, though more tools exist now than ever. There are first language children's shows like Doda de Nanagwari and study guides published in the weekly paper.
I don't want to get emotional.
But speaking about the baby books, project coordinator Jody Jacobs says she wanted to share the language the way a once beloved teacher did, through song.
I just thought that my grandchildren should learn that way as well.
They may be 3 small cardboard books, but together they're marking a new chapter in Mohawk language revitalization. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Kahnawake, Mohawk Territory.
It's really nice to see the emotion that can be brought out with something like that. That's been your look at APTN National News for this Tuesday. For more Indigenous news, visit our website at aptnnews.ca. I'm Darrell Stranger. Have a great night.